Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Troublemaker, and we're playing some Wargame European Escalation Wargame Cup, or casting it at least. Representing the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is the blue player, Kimoz. And representing the Warsaw Pact is our red player, Nightshadow. So, I don't know much about Nightshadow, or really Kimoz for that bout. But Kimoz is quite high on the ladder, so I suspect he might win this. And so looking at his loadout, he's got quite a few Blackhawks. This Delta Force recon is very, very popular on this map because using Delta Force allows you to have a group of units at Gulf right away to snipe some units as they come in, and also give recon information. He also has a few gun helicopters. He's actually putting an FOB over here in the woods, which is smart, moving that at a direct line of sight. But it also slows down your supply line, which is a big trade-off. So just make sure you know, putting it here gives you more survivability in your FOB from being captured. But when you fast move, you're gonna do a little bit of slow move. Just a small difference, you know. He's also got some Rise Patton, which used to be quite popular because it's the one of the most powerful tanks in NATO have, but it fell into popularity once tanks kind of got their nerve, and tons of infantry, lots of cheap infantry to kind of back this up. And so we see here he's got the Blackhawks going forward with the Gazelles, and this is definitely to snipe off enemies. Oh yes, he actually has one Blackhawk going around the side here, and this one's probably more for scouting information, just to see if there's anything along this path. He might also try to be rushing it over to a hotel to try and capture a command center, or just make it not possible for him to reinforce from this position. But Nightshadow does in fact have a little scout here, and a fairly decent chunk of anti-aircraft. He's got the Tunguskas, he's got some Przyrkas, and he's got some T-62. Oh, those are weird ones. 1975. Oh. Yeah, there's a lot of quality units here, but not a lot of quantity. And when you go towards Kimoz has definitely gone for quantity when you look at the ridiculous amount of cheap infantry he's purchased. So Delta Force is in fact going to secure Gulf and make sure that this command cannot take that position. And as you can see here, like, this is what do they call a bad microing habit? It's when you select all units moving forward. It's fine to select all units moving forward, but you should try to, in this thing too, spread them out, right-click on various locations as to what parts of the world you want them to represent and whatnot. But they're all placed in the woods here. India not even captured. This command is oddly not in place. I think that might be on purpose, kind of a trickery, to try and trick his opponent to think he's not going to have it there. He'll probably put it back in play later, but yeah, at the moment he didn't really have anything. And the UAZ, the cheap unarmored one that's easy to kill. Let's move to position. And as here's a good split. Just splitting up his infantry all along the place. He's even securing this location here. Very good. He's got the Delta Force here, like I said, denying this reinforcement point. And the UAZ is going to come into India and reinforce that. So looking at Kimoz, he doesn't actually have anything captured yet. He looks like he's going for Charlie. And where's the other one? I know he had a second one. He had a second one somewhere. It's just a matter of finding it. But we have some big battles coming up as Nightshadow pushes forward, puts all his forces into one giant ball. He has some Ural supply trucks here, resupplying as he uses them, and a good place for these anti-tank gunmen will just be along these ridges. The recon will get some free shots off at this Delta Force, and may show some return fire. And yeah, he's actually gone for what I call the max strat, which is basically reinforce from this point here and then capture this point here, and he might even slowly try and capture Gulf. The reason why Nightshadow has moved up here, and it's a relatively smart play, is to deny Gulf, make his opponent build some troops, make his opponent think that he's playing a little more aggressive than he actually is, and he has all of his units probably too clustered up here. One good rocket fire will wipe out this guy's entire army. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any of those really Expentians, I guess, Spetsnaz, which are great infantry, but are not great with a package. They're great in their own, by themselves, just sniping things out. But looking at Kimo's play, because he's a higher rated player. You can see he's gone for these chasseurs famas, which have become very, very popular to use, and he's got a lot of them all over the place. And he's got the AMX 10P, which is a very well armored infantry fighting vehicles. He's got the Marcher VT tank destroyers. It could be pushed a little bit further forward, just to kind of try and snipe out the Tunguskos. And this poor recon here is not really doing much. As you can see, he's kind of still spreading out his units a bit, still trying to get things organized. He did go with a very, very high amount of infantry strategy, and we're using infantry. This is something that's very good. Oh, he's actually going to move his command back in now. The trick has been deployed. When you're using infantry, a good idea is to set them up like this in these little assault squad things, all spread out, because they will do very well against pretty much everything except for infantry fighting vehicles, and so allowing them to get the drop in smaller groups is very, very good. The other thing about infantry is that they do have a lot of ammunition, so they'll also last a lot longer than tank fighting vehicles, and just very, very well. This is one of the most popular maps of the tournament. I'm not sure why. It's quite a large map though compared to most, and it's got a lot of points that mostly get ignored. People will not really care about this back here. Night Shadow's a little bit newer, so he hasn't back gone for Juliet in India, but usually people are just vying for the middle, and makes for some relatively boring games. And we can see from from Kimoz. Kimoz is actually just fortifying all his positions. He's got some anti-aircraft missiles in here, and there's a Vulcan in there as well. And he's just resupplying all his units. Nothing big, nothing fancy. This AML mortar carrier will be a bit of trouble for Night Shadow. And this is exactly what I was talking about. We're going to see here, like, this is just going to crash and burn. Oh yeah, the infantry are already rooted. Everything's actually full on pulling back. He's full on retreating from this position, realizing that he's got things too clumped up. And this is what I would call a junior mistake. And it's the round of 1200. It's got everybody in. The whole tournament's got everyone with various skill levels. So this kind of thing is bound to happen. And, Kimoz is a higher rated opponent, and he's actually going to be able to do stuff like this. And you see, like, a lot of stuff got stunned, a lot of stuff is slower, and suddenly the points are starting to shift back towards Kimoz, who was behind quite a bit, all because he was able to flush out this position. But whoa, hold back, we got some VIP attack helicopters with infantry in them, and M19s coming in, trying to snipe something. Maybe able to get this. Oh, anti-aircraft missiles. This is what I was talking about. Good preparation on the part of Kimoz. He knew once he had that position, he had to secure it. And you have to get this kind of idea in your head if you intend to go far in this tournament. When you have control of the majority of the resources, the units you should be building should be defensive oriented. That is, infantry, anti-tank vehicles, and anti-aircraft vehicles. When you're behind, you should be doing more stuff like this, except executed a little bit better, in which you're just trying to snipe off anything you can, but the key here is you cannot lose anything. Display right here, good. What I was doing earlier, not so good. Now, a defensive gunship Cobra has showed up with the Gazelle to try and fend off any air attacks, and these Mi-24 VPs are unfortunately forced to retreat. Night Shadow is still really reliving his mistakes. All of his stuff is too clumped up, and it's just very, very vulnerable to mortar fire. So far Kimoz has come back, and it looks like, yes, in fact, Kimoz is going to take golf. He has the command rolling out. He's ready to go ahead and even beat him anymore. This is around 1200. This is the weakest opponent he'll probably face for the tournament, and he's still playing like this is a serious game. A lot of the big wigs in the game have played relatively short games. And I say relatively short games because they're 7 or 8 minute rushes, and they just stomped in their opponents and just showed them that they just didn't have time for them. Kimoz is playing far more standard, and I see here this mortar is just wrecking all these poor infantry. All these are very high veterancy infantry as well, and you can just kind of see by how much it's costing per loss, just how high veterancy these units have to be. And so now Night Shadow is kind of in a tough spot. He's in a position where he can't quite stay pinched down at India. He does have to create an arc, much like Night Shadow has done. And if you're new to the game, if you by fluke advance to the round of 600. One, congratulations, you know. Everyone deserves their day. Two, just take note of these little things. The small things. He has a group of units in this forest here. Just making sure there's no flanking maneuvers. Small group, cheap units. He has a recon there. He has recon in every single one of these bushes. Every single one of them. And he has a specific grouping of units. Always anti-infantry vehicles, anti-air, infantry. And then he has these two units here, the gunship helicopters, to kind of cover in the cracks. He has a spotter here for this location. He's now unloading the expensive Gazelle to try and spot for his mortars. And he's getting a lot of anti-tank teams, a lot of infantry, and a lot of anti-air. If you're new to the game, this is how you should play. Move your initial vehicle forward. Take the closest possible point you can get for reinforcing a position. And then trying to get these high value. The number here indicates how many resources you get every 5 seconds. So, because he has, 8 total, 8 points, or 10, he's going to get 10 points every 5 seconds, which is, basically 2.5 times as much as poor old Nightshadow. The Chasseurs from us were successful in sneaking ahead. There is no TO-50 Flame PZ tanks here, so this is a relatively safe move. This was quite blind. We do have some Spetsnaz rolling in though, trying to get some shots at this VAB. They might actually be successful in destroying. This is what I'm talking about, the Spetsnaz. Very, very potent unit. Very good against pretty much everything. This is actually an anti-infantry vehicle, and they're doing very, very well against them. And he also has a little bit of support here as well. But Kimoz is playing a very conservative game, considering the skill difference. He's doing a lot of very small maneuvers. This here is another what I call standard play. Basically, if Nightshadow had taken this point here as his force, he put infantry here, maybe anti-tank gun here, some anti-air here, and just make sure this road is completely untouchable. And so now instead, since this is the entry point, he has to go all the way around, and he's actually probably manually queued this because he has to go this path to get here, just to make sure he's not spotted. And so this serves two functions. One, it's going to cut off reinforcements, and two, it's actually going to spot for any kind of sneaky moves. And we've got a T519 MSTA self-propelled artillery. These are actually quite good, and unfortunately a lot of clumped up units in these woods here, so almost any place he picks to shoot these at will do quite well, except for like right here where he's actually shooting. Not particularly the best place. Oh, actually he's doing what I call reactive shooting. He has no scouting information. He doesn't have any scouting information. No. You just shoot where the enemy's shooting at. He actually doesn't realize how much the enemy has. And these are all just really good plays. This is, when you're doing this kind of tactic as well, you gotta bring a decent amount of forces. This might not even be enough actually. In fact, he's actually running out of fuel on this these two Weasels, which I guess must be some new great vehicle, because I'd never even heard of these before, the launch of the last DLC. Kind of made them a standard. Some small moves here, like getting rid of these infantry out of these vehicles, could help. But he's affording a lot of units, and very quickly Nightshadow will be squeezed out. And this is what you call a squeeze play. Eventually he might even think about reinforcing this arc here, taking Hotel, and then he has a striking point for Juliet. Oh, here comes the Buratino. Buratinos, of course, are my favorite rocket launchers, and as you probably know, I play Pact when I'm playing this game, and I am a huge Buratino fiend. Like, I'm the guy who rolls in 2 Buratinos. I always like to have 2 of them, just for the power. And I'll shell out like a location like this. I'll gain like 600 points for 1 volley. So this is actually, in fact, to cover this line of attack here. And he's just slowly increasing his scouting information. He unfortunately cannot really give any supply to that location though. Yeah, like I said, just playing very conservatively. The mortar fire, not really hitting targets that needs to. Oh, I see. He's actually attacking this woods here because the UAZ is here. And he's also doing what I call the reactive fire. The MSTA shooting from here, so he's going to shoot there. Now, the poor UAZ might actually just randomly go down from this mortar fire, so this could be quite disastrous. This is definitely not as action-packed as all the other high-tier players who have been setting up some really, really good aggressive plays. And if I hope it's how you pronounce his name is Kimoz. If Kimoz is watching this, like one thing he will have to work on in order to get really far in this tournament is to actually execute attacks, because higher tier players will not let this happen. So he just got rid of some pretty valuable units, some air units, so he's going even further ahead, and he's just basically shelling this guy down to nothing, which is an old tactic, and it's a good one. That UAZ could fall any second now. This supply helicopter just will not last. God, that's such a good striking point. See, a player like, say, Tiga or Komurami or 555 or Bent Guru, they just take these units and they just put them here. Just because they don't think very highly of their opponent. Whereas I think Kimoz has a little more respect for the game and is looking to whittle down his opponents. He did, in fact, actually get the command as well with just random mortar fire. So that's quite good. And it looks like he's actually doing what I was thinking about. He's actually going to slowly arc over this way. And he's got the anti-aircraft, and here's, in fact, 2 aircraft. He needs to unload this AMX 10P right away, though, because the infantry will help against these aircraft. He doesn't have a scout. And this could be like a big gaming win point, because this is a lot of resources worth of gunships. These aren't cheap ones either. These are, oh my god. Now, if he unloads these now, he can actually just get this right away, but nope, not unloaded in time. That's unfortunate. He unloads last minute, not in time though. These AMX 10Bs are winding it again. You're gonna get another little volley off, but looks like they should survive. We got a little bit of micro, and oh my god, Spetsnaz are sniping out the shots from off. Spetsnaz are so good, and it's a shame they're not using them right. These Spetsnaz are in a poor position. The Spetsnaz should actually be, they're also very hard to find too. They should be like over here, or like over here, or you know, any kind of location where they're gonna be able to snipe off some units by themselves. And look, oh my god, he just randomly took off a unit with his SPPZ Lux AL, and oh my god, big battle going on here. Looks like the VAB will fall. We have some fear here with some mortar fire randomly. Not quite enough targets here for the mortar, and we do have the helicopters going down, shot down by something here. The Martyr Roland, there it is. And however, Nightshadow does take the position. However, it is kind of a phallic victory? No, Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory. A Pyrrhic victory because he's kind of lost like 800 points there. So Mortarfire continues on this position here. The Buratinos haven't actually done anything yet. Buratinos actually have a very short range. They'd have to move up to around here in order to fire on this position. But pretty much anywhere those Buratinos fire are going to guarantee probably about 70 to 80 points per volley. So they're, you know, they're a really good unit. So we have the VABs finally moving up, finally being bold. He's probably going to place him in the woods here. And that's not too bad. Actually, he's shelling out this position here, trying to get the Furong's UAZ, which is partially armored. So it's going to be a little bit hard to get. Just whittling down his opponent. A lot of people would actually quit right now. And quitting's not a bad choice in a match like this. Realistically, when you're in the round of 1200 and you have a 900 point deficit, it's not going to go well for you for the tournament. But everyone is competing for something. I think, I'm not sure if this is 100% true or not, but I think everyone who wins passes the round of 1200 into the round of 600 actually gets a free game off of Steam. So everyone gets like a anywhere between like a $20 and $60 prize, which isn't bad, considering, you know, it's about 30 minutes worth of work. And you know, the prizes just keep going up. Actually, you know, here at the Buratinos, this is what I'm talking about. So let's see how many points he gets out of this. He's actually got a lot of stuff stunned here. He didn't really find a good location, and he looks like he got about 50 points out of this. Oh, goes up. There's my 80 that I was talking about. Oh my god, that's 140. And this is what people hate, by the way. People hate when people just load up a Buratino and they instantly get like 120 points. Now keep in mind the Buratino does have its weakness. It goes empty very fast. It has to pull back to this Ural, get reloaded up and do that again. He's firing on the location of the Buratino because Buratinos are 120 each. They're very expensive. And they're definitely not cheap. They're not easy. They're just high on like maintenance is bad. But I mean, Kimoz has done very, very well right here. He's got 2 Saucers from us and Legion from us. He can actually take the Legion from us, I think, and put them right here to kind of get every single unit that comes out this way. Now, the Furong's UAZ has been forced to evacuate Juliet just because it's beginning shelled out so badly by mortar shells. And actually, with all these vehicles, he can just take this FOB here for himself with the VAB or the the Luke's AI and just really dominate this position. But he's playing very passively. You don't get to be one of the top players in the game by playing kind of cheesy. And his opponent's not terrible, but he's he's probably not at the same level as him. So we're gonna fast forward ahead, see if anything else happens other than the shelling. Oh, he's actually getting tanks out, so he might be preparing for a move. Tanks do imply movement. Tanks are very armored, very good. And the Buratino's winding up again. Let's see how many more points he gets. Oh, he actually does a total miss, which is not very cost effective. And unfortunately, it looks like he does have another ball. If only he knew like these woods areas are. When you're in this game, you should definitely aim for any wooded area because everyone just stacks all their units in the wooded area. The BDV Rifle Squad, quite good anti-infantry, and do have some anti-tank options. And yes, he is in fact going for a big deployment. All these Rise patents with a Vulcan are on the move. He's got a TPZ Fuchs and a Hemet just so he can resupply. And I'm not entirely sure where he's actually going with this. But the mortars are kind of the lesson of the game, kind of the thing that's paying off. These wooded areas here, unfortunately, are not really the money maker. And as far as artillery use goes, Nightshadow has actually been more effective, mostly because he doesn't have as many units as Kimoz, and Kimoz is basically shooting fish in a barrel, which is not as easy as it sounds. I know that's like supposed to be like, oh yeah, it's easy to shoot a fish in a barrel. Try shooting a fish in a barrel. It's freaking hard. Anyway. Whereas, Nightshadow is pretty much just shooting a deer at point blank range. I don't know where I'm going with this, but anyway, he's getting ambushed by an Mi-24D helicopter. He needs to get up. Here's his anti-aircraft just in time. Going to take it down and get a nice 120 point lead. He's actually moving it all up here. And a little bit of overkill. And this may be stylistically Kimoz. I'm not sure. I haven't really cast enough of Kimoz games. But he has a total surround. Complete and utter surround on all forces. At any point, he can actually just move forward and kill everything. And he's been just slowly moving up his units. He's got an anti-aircraft awkwardly placed in the middle right here. And looks like he's actually... yeah, he's moving some units around in all the woods. And he's just going to completely dominate this opponent. This opponent has moved his command out, but that also means he's not getting any more points, he's not getting any more units, and slowly he's going to get whittled down to nothing. He is clumping up all his units and moving them out. They're actually all rooting. Rooting, of course, is just a random effect from morale. And he's shelling at this location so he can kind of coordinate a giant attack. Realistically, this attack could have happened quite a while ago. I think Kimoz, to win this tournament, is going to have to practice big attacks. Because this is a big attack with no real risk, because he's only attacking with like 10% of his army. Right? I think this game's pretty well wrapping up. Like, there shouldn't be many units left very soon. So I'd like to say about the tournament, tournament round 1 cutoff is November 26th. So what's going to happen from here is there will be roughly 600 players left, but there won't exactly be 600. There will probably be like 500 because a lot of the matches people just won't show up for at all. Either person won't show up. And then the next round will show up, and the quality of the games should slightly increase, but there will be a lot of games like this. Now, Nightshadow is showing a lot of weakness here. He moved up all of his units here, and now he's just running them away. I'm not entirely sure what he was thinking here. Nothing good. Blocked units getting rooted and slowed down. The Buratinos are spinning up. They might be able to do a little more damage. Only target right here. Oh my god, he's actually knows it's coming. He knew it was coming in advance. He pulled back all of his units from his front forest immediately just to try and survive that volley. And of course, with the Buratinos, like, they're only going to do 2 volleys unless you got a supply truck. So a good player is going to know that. So you're going to pull back and he's going to wait for the second volley. Then he can move back in position. These are all expensive tanks, by the way. Ooh, if he gets that Buratino, even with this Furnace Shire, that would be huge. Buratino, of course, 120 points. And he got it. He got it in time. There's a recon against this recon. One is an anti-tank recon? That's interesting. And the artillery are shelling at this location. Lots of clumped up units. You can just actually push forward these Martyr VTSI and just slosh these things down. He's got 3 T-62 tanks in the background, trying to do whatever damage he can. The self-propelled artillery is rooted, not running away. This is definitely not the item you want in the front of the lamp, that's for sure. And recons are moving forward, trying to snipe what they can. Of course, there's lots of rise patterns. These are the creme de la creme endgame tank that everyone wants in their army, as well as these Leopard 2s compared to Leopard 1s. And these T-62 Obre 1975 is just getting chewed up. Single command hiding in the woods. There's not much left here for Nightshadow. And unfortunately, Kimoz, he's just a little too passive. I know he wants that free Steam game, but honestly, the scores are pretty ridiculous. This might actually be the biggest difference in a score for the entire tournament. I don't think there's anything of this kind of extreme, where literally you have a map that's entirely blue, and there are some red spots, but they look more like a disease. So we have a single MI-24D. It's going to get knocked down by his VABs. Yes, it is. Oh, it's actually rooting first. That root might actually save it. No. In comes the Cobra. And the VABs are, in fact... Whoa, he's playing pretty saucy with that command. The entire middle has been cleaned up. There are no forces left on the map. There is a command high in the forest, and this is basic douchebaggery play. Look at this queue up of all gazelles, and the command goes down 100% in victory for Kimoz. As I said, quite a high-rated player. So, about 2 more days left of coverage from round 1, and then we'll be moving on to round 2, the round of 600. So join me tomorrow for another game. Thank you for watching.